I'm here to talk about freedom, and I'm very excited about it. Do you remember the first time you realized that you were free? That you were really free? The first time I even knew what freedom was, I got lost in a library, and I was reading stories about Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth, and freedom was so clear and so easy to understand. And then I grew up, and it got complicated like everything else. And I started to look for freedom in everything I saw. I tried to listen for it. And one day I was driving in the car, and I heard on the radio Janis Joplin. And she sang that famous lyric, "Freedom is nothing left to lose." And I thought to myself, is that how I have to experience freedom? Do I have to get to the edge, lose everything, give everything up to really experience freedom? See, freedom had become this esoteric, cerebral idea that I couldn't quite touch. It was like love, right? You can feel it, but you can't touch it. You can't hold it in your hands. And I read the great agnostic Robert Greene Ingersoll's. He wrote it beautifully when he said, "What light is to the eyes, what air is to the lungs, what love is to the heart, liberty is to the soul of man." And I thought, this is amazing. I cannot get enough of this freedom stuff, right? And I kept looking for it in everything I did. And so I went to law school. And when other people met their partners, I met the Constitution. And I got to know the Constitution, and I flirted with it, and I tried it on. And I explored the freedom of religion. I tried on the freedom of speech, and my family would say too much. I assembled, I petitioned, I wrote to the press, I even shot a gun. I loved it. I loved everything about freedom. And what I came to find was that freedom in the Constitution was very personal, very intimate, something different than what they had taught me. The Constitution didn't just set up the power of government. It didn't just set up the structure, the architecture of government. It spoke to me personally. It spoke to all of us personally. It was our guardian. It was our bedfellow. But it wasn't until I started teaching at an open enrollment college, where students are anywhere from 15 to 75 years of age and even older, and they come to this sanctuary of sorts. It's where everyone has access to education. It's an amazing idea, right? And it was really through my students that I understood this new emerging idea of freedom, and I would come to understand what freedom is now. Let me tell you about my students, because they're absolutely fantastic. They're gritty, they're self-determined, they're intellectually curious, they're self-reliant, they're absolutely beautiful. They also carry the weight of the world on their shoulders. They are husbands, they are wives, they are sons, they are daughters, they are caregivers, and they are seeking education, carrying all that with them. And they come to me, and we start to talk about freedom, and we start to explore the Constitution, and they distance themselves from freedom. And at first, I couldn't quite tell what was happening, and it started to reveal itself that freedom is a few generations away from my students, that hunger for freedom, to what that feels like, and that they also connected freedom with some of the ugliness and divisiveness of modern politics, that they related the two. And so they were shy with freedom. So I introduced them to the Constitution. And they came to understand what I had come to understand, that it was very personal to them, very intimate, and that the Constitution didn't grant them their rights. It gave them a shield. It protected them. And that they had been free all along. And that they didn't have to look that hard. I didn't have to look that hard. You don't have to look that hard for freedom. That it's inside of us. And they came to know that truth, that every single person in this room knows that deep inside of us, each one of us is so magnificent, so valuable, so unique, that we don't need a constitution to give us freedom. We have it as our birthright, not just as Americans, but as the human race. And so as students come to know that freedom and they try that freedom on,